When I first broke from religion, Catholicism in my case, as a college student, I overdid it. At Christmas dinner with my family, including my uncle who was a priest, I let them have it. This was a terrible mistake. It was entirely counterproductive and caused unnecessary pain and misunderstanding for my family, especially my mother and myself. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I, for sure, was not as considerate as I could have been when I left religion. As I mentioned before in a previous video, the day after I ran away from my chapel that I was staying in as a priest, I sent an email to my family giving them some time to react to the situation that I was going through, the fact that I had left the priesthood and that I was coming out as gay, to give them that chance to absorb it and not have a face-to-face or on the phone type of pressure to make a response in the moment. I probably could have been a little bit more tactful in the way that I presented my situation. Although there are a lot of people who have left religion and suffered similar consequences as I have, there is this impression that they are okay, that they don't regret anything in their past. The only thing that they regret is the fact that they were in religion at all and that they had to go along with the teachings. They give this impression. But I think the reality is that most people who leave religion and suffer these types of consequences feel regrets and remorse. They look back on their decisions, what they said, how they said it, and they realize that maybe they could have done it better. For me, the regret is rooted in more of the extraneous circumstances around my loss of faith. Even though I don't like that term, I don't regret that because it was outside of my power. I did not want it. I did not pursue it. It just happened. But all of the other actions that were within my control around that time, of course, I probably could have done better. Regret is not a pleasant feeling, just like guilt. Most people, when they have these types of feelings, they blame other people or the Christian system for giving them that feeling. But regret is a normal human reaction. The fact that we have a memory and that we can go into the past and assess our decisions and the actions and the consequences and realize that maybe things could have been different if we acted differently. Of course, if others acted differently as too, but that's not within our power. But we don't want to look at our part in the past. Living constantly in the past is not beneficial, but looking and seeing where we went astray, that is important, and it's being honest. And the whole point of this coming out of religion, everyone says that it's all about, I'm finally being honest with myself. Really? Look on YouTube at all the videos of people who have left Christianity. One of the threads that goes through all of them is the fact that they're being honest with themselves and that they don't regret anything. And if they do, if there are bad consequences to their decisions, it's not on them. It's on other people. It's their fault. Christianity is at fault, not them. Later, I learned to be more civil in expressing myself and criticizing religion, but was still insensitive and tactless in some ways. I now find it best to speak what I feel is true, respectfully, humbly, and sensitively to others. I focus my criticism on aspects of religion that I feel are irrational, hypocritical, and inhumane, while acknowledging the good, inspirational, and ethical principles associated with it. Irrationality and inhumanity are our enemies, not religion per se. An old maxim among the ancient Epicurean philosophers is, speak the truth with kindness, i.e., don't lie to be kind, but don't tell the truth in harsh, cold, and unfeeling ways, but rather tell the truth with understanding and empathy. How many people confuse Christianity and Christians. In their head, they attack and they hate Christianity, but they, in the same action, attack people who are a part of that, a part of the religion that they were a part of. Looking back a few years, they would have been those people. But for some reason, they forget that. We were once believers. Religion is important to people. For many, it's more than something to console them in times of grief. It provides meaning and guidelines to their lives and conduct. They live for it, die for it, and raise their children with it. It's hard to be told one's whole life is based on an illusion. If we must do that, let's do it with kindness, with wisdom, as Carl Sagan would say, and couched in a humility that recognizes that no one, not atheists, not humanists, not the religious, has the certain answers to the deep mysteries of life. That's one of the reasons why I started this project. My purpose is not to lead people astray, lead people down my own path. It's to share the thoughts and ideas and events that went on in my life that I'm sure in various degrees other people have experienced, but in religion, no one is really allowed to express these thoughts because any of these thoughts are seen as deviations. So seeing someone online being so open about their experiences and their thoughts, that can be a huge consolation for people. I remember with my whole experience, one of the hardest parts was that with my friends, with my family, I couldn't be 100% open with them. I was afraid that they would be scandalized. But I'm done with the seal of confession where I would share these dark thoughts in a little box in the back of the church to the ear of the priest who was representing God. It was basically me talking to God. I'm done with that. I grew up independent Baptist. At the age of 25, after Bible college and plans for seminary, my faith began to unravel. It was slow and painful. Same. It's been 3 years, and there are days when I'm so thankful for getting out of the church, but many days I feel the exact opposite. Relatable. I regret losing my faith and the plans I had before it all came undone. I didn't encourage it, and it didn't happen on purpose. I can't believe anymore because my brain won't let me make sense of my former faith. It's clearly not reasonable now. For a crappy illustration, this must be what someone who awakens out of the Matrix feels like when they miss their old perception of happiness and security. Yeah, like I said before, losing my faith was not a part of my game plan. I had just finished 7 years of training in the seminary, which was very difficult. I was ordained a priest, and I was in my first church as a priest, which was incredible. And in my head, I had this future for myself where I would live out my days being a priest and giving myself to other people in the service of God. And then one day, laying on my deathbed, clasping my rosaries, giving out my last breath in the service of God. Well, I guess all things are possible and I'm not dead yet, so that could happen again. But remember, in my present state, I could not just go back. I couldn't just start believing again. Like, if I just strained myself hard enough, then I could... No. That's not how it works, right? And if I do go back, why would I go back? It would be because I'm scared that maybe it is true. That doesn't sound like somebody who is really a believer and has faith in God. Would it be to appease my parents and all the people who looked up to me? Does that seem reasonable? For people who really loved me, would they want me to pretend? I found solace in the answer, I don't know. And I became okay with that. I would rather live a life where I know the truth, even if I don't know what the truth is. I am still seeking it, but I will not settle or accept anything that is an easy answer that makes me feel good. i.e. most religions, when I know it may not be true. I am always challenging myself to be better at my job, at golf, as a husband, etc. So why would I settle for finding the most important question, the meaning of life? It took a minute for that to settle in, but now I get to wake up every morning and know that I push myself to be a better person instead of limiting myself to any easy answer where I can overlook the truth. All of these anonymous comments from Reddit are something. Some people on those type of platforms, they hide behind some anime character and then just say horrible things to other people without fear of any personal repercussion. Other people use the anonymity to express ideas that maybe they wouldn't be as comfortable saying in public, even to their friends or family. I don't think I've heard anybody on the mainstream who has left religion say that they're still seeking the truth. They haven't found it yet. They're not going to just hold on to another ideology that appeases them, like, religion or these ideas that fill us with the meaning of life. It's like going to a buffet. Like, I'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, they're not satisfied with the easy answers. They want to know the truth, the real truth, because they know that that is actually going to fill them. I remember my psychologist suggested that because I had this huge gaping hole that was left after I lost my faith, she said, well, why don't you change your perception of what God is? Because how could God hate someone who is gay? Or how could God, trying to not push me, but open up the possibility of forming an idea of God that is distinct from the idea that I was raised in Catholicism. And that idea didn't sit well with me, because I have the idea that if there is a God, then he's above me, that I can't fully comprehend him or it or whatever, God. I can't fully comprehend God. The fact that I'm going in my own limited capacity form a God or a religion that makes me feel good, that doesn't seem like that fits in the order of being. It seems more right that I would conform myself to God. That seems more reasonable. And I had a student who told me, Francis, when this whole situation for the past 2 years, you know what I'm talking about, is over and everything's open up again, I'm going to bring you to an LGBT affirming Jesuit mass. Oh boy, with my many years in the seminary, I studied the Jesuits, and again, I'm not going to be a part of a community like the Jesuits who just go around trying to make people feel good by watering down their own beliefs to make themselves more appealing. How appealing is it to associate yourself with those types of people who change their personalities and their opinions depending on who they're with, just to make the other person feel good? Anyway, I miss religion, I miss God, but I'm not going to settle for the easy way out. And I'm not going to lie to myself. I'll just stick to my course until something happens. I first admitted to myself I was an atheist about 12 years ago, give or take. Every so often I do miss it, that old life built around the church. I think with each new stage of life, you will find another reason to miss it. When I first had kids, it was especially easy to fall into longing for that ready-made community. Every time I look back with rose-tinted glasses, though, I take a minute to really evaluate what I'm missing. More often than not, I can find ways to see how I've replaced what's gone with better things. Things based on real connections and respect as opposed to conformity and obedience. I think it's very understandable to feel a bit at a loss when you give up a huge piece of your life. Letting go of that easy sense of purpose and righteousness is hard. It is worth it though. Looking at what has happened in the past 5 years and all of the big steps that I've made in life. One of the hardest parts is not being able to share that with my family, not being able to invite them to different events, not being able to see them on holidays. One day I will get married and they won't come to that. At the same time too, I'm missing out in their lives. They're going through these huge events. My brother, my sister, and my parents, they're getting older. Time is precious. Every minute gone is like a minute lost. That's how I feel. And why? Why is this happening? Because I lost the faith, even though I didn't want to. That sounds fucked up. That something so grave, this consequence that has affected me so profoundly is because of something that I didn't really want to happen. I'm sorry for cussing, but it is frustrating. It's very frustrating, and it's okay to feel frustrated and not to understand it. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to, in turn, be angry and resentful for what happened, because what good does that do? What good would it be to hate my parents for the way that they're acting? They're just following what they believe. And I'm doing what I believe. And it just doesn't mesh right now. That's not the problem. The people aren't the problem. But it's hard to really understand what really happened. Oh, if they only compromised and it's easy to make these types of hypothetical situations, but people who believe things are going to act according to that belief. And I respect people that do that. I don't respect the person that, like the Jesuits, they're Catholic, but then they do things that aren't Catholic. Well, that seems like a two-faced person. I prefer to meet people head on, face to face, and really know who they are and what they believe. And that draws my respect. But it's just fucked up because it's my family. Kind of. Sometimes I still wish it were true. That's honest. I regret having faith in the first place. Thank you. Thank you for responding in a way that doesn't have any value whatsoever. It's like if I were to go to my friend and be like, gosh, I just lost my job and I didn't do anything wrong. They just fired me. Can you relate to that? And they say, nope, I'm happy when I lost mine. Dude, that wasn't even I regret that I had it to begin with. It ruined a lot of good things for me. Nope. Faith. What is faith? A belief in something regardless of logic? I have no regrets. That just reminds me of that tattoo where I think it's like, no regrets or something like that. That's how I feel with these people. I have no regrets. It's like, yeah, everybody who is honest with themselves have regrets. It's just... It should be normal. I don't understand how you can regret something you have no control over. I couldn't make myself believe again, even if I wanted to. I could feel sad about it, but regret doesn't make sense to me. There's something that's important with regret. If we're regretting things that are not within our power to control, then there's something off. That feeling is encompassing things that it shouldn't. We, just like that person said, we can feel sad that a situation turned out the way that it did. But regret, it's not, we regret our own actions. We regret something that we had the power to alter, and we learn from it. Losing the faith was out of my control. And one of the factors that really agitated or irritated, I don't know what the right word is, made the situation even worse was the fact that I kept on forward as if I still believed, because I thought in the back of my head, maybe this is just another test of God. God's wanting me to prove myself so that I just had to power through and power ahead, and maybe at some point he would grant me that vision of faith again. That's what I thought, and that nearly killed me. On the one hand, I'm very happy that I left Christianity because there was a lot of toxic, harmful stuff going on. On the other hand, I do regret it. mainly because that feeling of security, that I was cared for by God and that I was safe, is gone. I don't really have a community anymore like I did when I was a Christian. I'm a bit lonely. I have existential crises a lot as well now. Leaving something so fundamental like religion, it's like ripping your soul in two. It feels so painful. I've told myself that it's okay to not feel good sometimes. It's okay to not feel that security that I once did. It's okay that things are not stable. And as we're told, life is like that. It's a path of winding curves, and it's not anything that we could have planned for. We have to take it as it comes. We have to take the good and the bad, and that lady who always puts a comment in my DMs every time I make a video and tells me to convert back to religion or I'm going to hell. We have to take it all. I want to hear what your thoughts are about all of this. I'm very interested to know how other people have experienced this whole transition. If you're not in a position to make a comment, a public comment, because I understand that sometimes when we make a public comment, especially on the page of an ex-priest, that page is being monitored by other priests, and if your name pops up, maybe you'll get in trouble. But read the other comments and maybe something will help you. I think especially with the environment going on social media, where everyone is just so fake. And I'm not talking about like Instagram models with their face tunes and all that stuff. That's obvious, that's expected. But even people who are following these ideological systems and you don't know if you're talking to a real person on the other side. That's how unified they are in the way that they talk. It's like talking to a robot. It's time for people to start being real and honest and talk about facts. Those people, they have to be okay. They have to be as firm as they are now as they were in their religious life. And they're going to state it to the whole world that I'm so happy I left religion and my life is so good now. And yeah, I think it would be better and more honest to just paint the whole picture. Don't just focus on the good parts, because yeah, there are good, really, really good aspects of my life now that I would have never had in the past. But there's also some very dark and difficult things that I'm dealing with. And that's being human. That's living and experiencing and having senses and emotions. That is what people are going to connect with, the full experience. Not just, I'm okay, religion's stupid, I hate Christians. All right, I'm done. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Talk to you later. Bye.